Obviously we're excited about the opportunity to play here in about 8 days, 9 days. Shoot, it's coming up quick. Pretty unique opportunity, getting a chance to play in Yankee Stadium in New York. It'll be interesting for the coaches and the kids. I've never been there to the stadium, so that'll be new. Certainly playing in a baseball venue is always a little bit different from a football standpoint. It's pretty unique for the guys. We have some guys headed home, which is exciting, but really when it comes to a bowl game, what's most important, what we as coaches get most excited about, it's like I tell our players usually their least favorite times of year are my favorite, where it's just football. And that's the nice thing about bowl prep is it's just football. We're 10 workouts in. We're not, we're out of school, we're out of finals, we're out of class. So right now it's just about football. It's about taking young guys and pushing them forward. And then obviously with the older guys, we want to sharpen those skills as we move ahead. But we're excited about the challenge of playing BC. Really good football team. Remind me a lot of our program, just how they're built, how they're structured. So that'll be an interesting challenge for us, from a standpoint of going up against a team that they see an offense like ours every day in practice. So certainly not going to be caught off guard by that. But with all that being said, I'd open up to questions from you guys.
As you look back on your first year as offensive coordinator, what do you like? What do you wish you would have done better?
Ask me in 4 weeks, or when we get a chance to really reflect on the season. Right now, our number one priority is beating BC, getting ready to do that, pushing the young guys forward, and obviously finishing recruiting here in the next day. At least this phase of recruiting, it's not really finished, but this is new territory too. So I wish I could tell you I've given some thought to that, other than what you do every week where you reflect a little bit. But if you ask me that question again in a month, I think I'll be able to answer it better.
Has it been what you expected?
In what regard?
Just in any regard. Has there been any surprises?
Football is a game of surprises.
Sure.
This is a business full of surprises. And I think if anything went the way you expected it in this business, it wouldn't be much fun. None of us would be in it. It'd be pretty boring. So, I always was fortunate to be around pretty good mentors. And one guy was around, one thing that impressed me the most about him was he was never surprised when things didn't go the way he expected them to. And, Murphy's Law, things of that nature, it's kind of the fun of being in this business. So is there anything that surprised me? Sure, there's a lot that surprised me. There's a lot that went exactly the way I thought it would. And that's just kind of how this works. That's why it's fun. That's why every day is a new adventure.
What did you learn about yourself calling plays? What did you learn about your patience level, your frustrations that way? I'm sure you ran into both.
Well, yeah, I think that's just part of doing anything. And it's coaching the offensive lines the same way, whether you're calling plays or not. There's certain things from a development standpoint you wish happened faster. There's certain things you wish you could do a better job coaching. I'm talking about it in the line room right now. And then calling plays, I think, is the same way. There's really no greater teacher than experience. And so sometimes, if you don't gain the experience fast enough, then hindsight becomes pretty clear. I think that's probably the thing I've learned the most about calling plays is the more you do something, it's like anything else, the more comfortable you get. But I think I'd be crazy to sit here and tell you that, say I call plays for 10 more years if I'm that fortunate. I don't know how much, it's kind of like recruiting. My joke with recruiting, I tell this to coaches all the time. Every night I go home, I go back to my hotel room and I sit down and you kind of decompress. And usually my thought at the end of the night is, I actually know less about recruiting in the process tonight than I did this morning when I woke up. I hope play calling goes better than that. I hope I learn a little bit more. But I think it's kind of like anything else. The minute you start thinking you have things figured out or you get a little comfortable, all of a sudden there's a new challenge that arises, or you see something you haven't seen before. You need to adjust to something you haven't adjusted to before. And it's back to Pat's question. Then it's the fun of coaching. Every day is a new adventure.
What was it like calling plays at Michigan State and at Wisconsin, and then what was it like calling plays against Ohio State when everything seemingly worked?
Sure. Well, when you're calling plays at Michigan State or Wisconsin, it felt like nothing worked. And then when you were calling plays against Ohio State or Nebraska, it felt like everything worked. I wish I could give you a better answer than that. It's exactly what you saw is how it felt.
When you're good way to put it. When you're pushing those buttons though at Michigan State and at Wisconsin and they're not working, what do you do then? How do you adapt? Is there an adaptation built into this offense and this philosophy that needs to be there that just didn't show up in those instances?
Yeah, well, I think you try to adapt every week. on Monday going into the game? What are you seeing? What do we do? What do we do best? What can we do that's a little bit different that doesn't cause us to have a lot of issues? What personnel is going to give us the best matchups that we need to have? And then how do we make all that work in 4 or 5 days? Right? So that's what you start the week with. So there's that adaptation process starts on Monday. And then there's a whole nother adaptation process that starts on Saturday. You know, once the bullets start flying a little bit and you figure out, okay, hey, this is what we thought it was. This isn't what we thought it was. This matchup is good. This matchup is not good. And you make adjustments there. But I think the most difficult thing is, you know, when you're making, when the things that you thought would be there are there, but you're not connecting on those. So you talked about pushing the buttons.
Right.
And what do? Well, you just try to keep pushing buttons until you find something that works. And I think that's the hardest thing offensively that I've learned as a play caller is when nothing is working, trying to find something to grasp hold to, that's the difficult part, right? Whether it's just situational, we had games where, you know, hey, we're moving the ball a little bit, but boy, we can't convert on third down, right? So whether it could be something as specific as that, or it could be something as global as nothing works and nothing is going well, and then just trying to find new buttons and push those buttons and see if we can grasp a hold of something, get a drive started with a positive play and try to build off of that. When you have games where everything seems to be working, even things you were kind of iffy about, right? Then it's real easy. You just keep doing what works. So I wish it was more complicated than that. And I know as coaches we try to make it a lot more complicated than that, but it's not. If it works, keep going back to the well. The only trick is don't go back to the well too many times. But I can tell you this in my experience: good plays, good thoughts, good matchup. There's not a shelf life on those things. You know, and you look at, there's only so much they can do to adjust on the sideline too. So if you have something that's going well, if you have something that you're making some hay with, generally you stay with it. Even you go through halftime and maybe they have an answer for it, but then once you figure out what the answer is for it, it may open the door to a whole bunch of other possibilities. So when things are going well, it's a lot easier because you're just building off the things you're doing well. When things are not going well, you're trying to find something that will go well that maybe you can build off of. And I think that's the challenge.
What was that like for you when it didn't, you know, and you're starting to search? Or do you, I don't know. I don't want to assume that you do.
That's my job, is to search. Yeah, I think it's a good assumption.
But you're already in the press box. You're already calling plays. You know, there's going to be no magic page in the playbook that blows in. You're just trying to find something.
Sure.
What is that like for you?
I think you just nailed it. There's no magic page in the playbook that's going to blow in. It is what it is at that point. And I think that's the most difficult part, and I think that's the hard part for the team sometimes too. And you know, hopefully with maturity and experience, you can weather some of those things better, because that's part of playing football. The nice thing about this time of year is you get to watch other games, right? So you're watching the game yesterday, and it's already been dubbed the game of the year, even though there's 2 weeks left in the season, and then they'll actually start playing important games. But if you watch that game, you know, one offense comes to life in the fourth quarter. Well, that offense didn't do much for 3.5 quarters, but when it counted, they were pretty good. And you look at who makes up, well, they have a lot of experienced players. They got a lot of guys that have been there before and understand that sometimes you just have to keep playing. And that's how games work. And football is a crazy game. It's like the end of that game, right? They go from winning the game to 2 plays later, they throw an interception and lose the game. And that's how fast things happen in the game. And the hard part is, as a coach, you've been around a long time. You understand that things can go that way. We've seen the momentum swings that way this year. And you will every year. It's part of playing. But I think for younger players, sometimes things seem a lot more final, or maybe a mountain seems a lot higher trying to climb it than what it is in reality. So what I'm hopeful is we gain experience with some of our crew. You know, some of those things, it's not going to go away. We're going to play in more games where nothing's working.
Right.
But it's how you handle those things. It's how you push through those things. I think that really end up defining the offense. When you go out there and you rack up 550 yards because nothing goes wrong, I don't think you learn much about who you are. But when things get a little bit tough and you're able to push through, and we did that at Iowa State. We didn't do that in Madison. You talk about two polar opposites. That's what you saw. So what you have to do is try to balance that out so that you can remain competitive at all times in all games.
Right. When you look at the 3-4s that you went against, especially late in the year, Nebraska, a completely different type of 3-4 than Madison you saw. However, you seemed in the second half you switched. You did some.
They have a really good defense. I think their front four is, they have a couple of really good players, but obviously, number 7 is special. And I don't know what his situation is right now. I know he's missed a little bit of time, but we expect him back. And he's a difference maker up front. He's a guy you got to account for in the pass rush. The secondary is very good, very experienced. They lost the corner, I think in week 1 or week 2, number 5, who was a returner, was a really good player. I'm glad he's not playing. But they put in some other guys that are pretty good. They're safeties. I've been really impressed with number 8. I think he's a good player. And I apologize, I don't know everybody's name yet, but he's in a lot of man coverage for him, does a very nice job. And then when you look at their backers, they got big guys that do a nice job in the run game. These guys are pretty solid against the run. So we're obviously going to have to deal with that. I'm sure they figure we anticipate running the ball a little bit. And obviously Coach Reed knows a little bit about us. He's been here. He's familiar with our program, and he's familiar with us offensively, at least philosophically. But more than that, he's a good football coach. And we had the benefit to be around him for a couple of years. He worked with our guys. I think you still see the benefits of that. Very experienced. He's going to have some answers for us. As I look at them over the last 4 or 5 games, they've really, in some ways simplified their system and some of the things they've done, and they've become very stout. And they've done a really nice job. When you just look at them in the last 4 or 5 games, some of the teams that they've been able to contain, some of the players they've been able to contain, it's awfully impressive. So, where the matchups are, I haven't found them yet. We're still looking. I hope we can find some before we play them.
With signing day coming up, what have you kind of thought of this early signing period and how it's worked out, in reality rather than in concept?
I just go out and I recruit, and I have my area. I recruit the guys in my area. Obviously, we look a little bit more globally, position offensively, do those things. They're going to do whatever they want to do. My job is to play within the rules, whatever they are. Signing day is Wednesday. We're trying to make sure that all the guys we were recruiting, we get them signed Wednesday. And that's really all I control, and that's what I anticipate happening.
Was this December more hectic or different with the early signing period as opposed to past years?
It's hectic every year. Yeah. Our job is to go out and recruit. And there's a lot of things that go on in December. I think what you see is, mostly the people that are upset with the early signing day are the people that can afford to wait and take guys from other people's classes. So I guess it's more hectic for them in December. It seemed the same to me. It seemed like any other December in my mind.
One more question. The coordination part of your job go? I know it's calling plays is maybe 10% of it. How did, working with Coach Polisek and Copeland and everybody, all the new, that role is new for you, I think, pretty much. How did that go? Hammering everything together, making sure everything's working.
That part's easy. I think I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about what good people we have in this building, on the offensive staff, from Coach O'Keefe to Coach Polisek to Coach Copeland, and then LeVar with the tight ends. We got really good guys. There's a lot of collaboration in there. There's a lot of ideas. There's a lot of backgrounds that come in. And really, as a coordinator, your job is just to pick the best ideas, or what you think are the best ideas. And then when they work, you take credit for them. And when they don't work, you blame them on somebody else. So that part was pretty easy for me. Yeah. That guy.
Challenges possibly facing you guys because it is a quicker bowl turnaround, and challenges going to New York. I know you mentioned it's your first time ever.
Sure. It's a bowl game's a bowl game, and I know it's a little quicker than maybe we normally have been involved in, but your schedule's fluid. We've played games on as short a notice as 4 days or 5 days, I guess. When you look at I know it's 6 days, but 5 days as far as the actual cycle of the game plan. So whenever the bowl game was announced, however many days that was, it's a lot of days. So I don't think there's any time constraint or challenge or anything like that. We're going to a new venue. It's an unfamiliar venue, but that's exciting. We go to plenty of stadiums in the out-of-conference, the non-conference that we haven't been to before. So this is just kind of another part of playing football. But the unique challenge is getting ready for a team that you don't have a lot of history with, and that's true of any bowl game. So in that way, it's what we do every year, just in a new venue that we're pretty excited about.
Brian, there's usually this time of year you get a lot of players, younger players who finally get a chance to run the Iowa offense. Have there been any that really have kind of caught your eye over the last few weeks that you think have a chance to compete for playing time?
Well, you know, I think it's really too early to tell. I wish I could give you a name and say, hey, this guy's going to be a great player for us. We played a lot of true freshmen this year, and those were the guys we felt were most ready. But right now there's a lot of young guys that are working, and basically they all really look like young guys who need to keep working. So I don't have a name for you yet.
Thanks, Brian.